Started getting involved with volunteering and advocacy and all those kinds of things when my oldest child started kindergarten over 20 years ago. And I got involved with the PTA at her school, and just things kind of grew from there until it came to a point where I decided that I wanted to run for school board. And so this is my 12th year on the school board in Berea, and I'm currently on the ballot for November for another term. So yes, this is an important election year because all school boards in Ohio are up for election this year. And then, just a few months ago, I was hired by Honesty for Ohio Education as a part-time organizer. And basically I get to go around to groups like you, other community groups, and talk about education, because Honesty for Ohio Education is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that fights for public education in the state. And we've been very, very busy over the last year, especially the last 6 months since the new legislature took over. Strong Ohio Schools is, I'm going to pass around a couple things. There's a QR code on here. I'll pass one around on each side. It's just Strong Ohio Schools is a campaign that we have at Honesty. We're trying to find out from at least 4,000 different people around the state what you wish education could be. So not what it is right now or what it was, but what you think it could be. And that QR code on this paper takes you to a little survey that's anonymous, and just so we can get some information. Also, I'm assuming that you all know who your legislators are, because you seem like very involved people. But in case you don't, here's another paper I'll pass around. And there's a QR code on there that you can scan, and it'll take you to the website for the Ohio Legislature. And when you put in your address, it will tell you exactly who your state representative and state senator are. And that's very important because of some of the things that we're going to talk about in a little while. You can also create an account on that website. It takes about a minute. And you can choose all the different topics that you're interested in. So on mine, they're pretty much all education and finance. So every time that a bill in that area comes up, or the committee on one of those areas is going to be meeting and having hearings, I get an email notification. And I get a link to click on to download the agenda so I know what's going on. And you can do that as well. Okay, so the Ohio Department of Education is now called the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. If you didn't know that, that happened about a year ago. And because we're not only just teaching children, we're also preparing them for the workforce, starting in kindergarten. And I'm sorry, but it's true. If you go on their website, Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, one of the pages looks like this. It says, there are choices for families when it comes to education in Ohio. Ensuring each child is challenged, prepared, and empowered for his or her future starts with providing opportunities to meet the needs of each child across the state. Ohio's 1.7 million school children represent our future and require educational environments that support the development of their diverse identities and interests, while also serving their unique learning needs. Ohio recognizes that learners come in all shapes and sizes and provides information to help families make informed choices for educating their children. Sounds pretty good. That's the top of the webpage. Then, browse the school and program options below. So if you're looking on your computer screen, this is the top of it. It says community charter schools, private schools, non-chartered, non-public schools. Then it says department-sponsored schools, home education, scholarships, which is another word for vouchers. And then, all the way at the bottom of the webpage, you see public schools. It's where the arrow is. Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that too. Because 90% of the students in Ohio attend public schools. But that tells you all that you need to know about what Ohio thinks about public education. Public schools are at the bottom of their webpage. So, there is a lot of legislation that has been introduced just since January that is hurtful to public education. And I'm going to very quickly go through them, but I will tell you the number in case you want to jot it down, and you can do some more research on it yourself. Now, these are things that have not passed yet, but have been in talks for several months. House Bill 335, this is a finance one that was kind of rolled into the budget, proposes eliminating districts' access to inside millage, which is a core component of the way schools are funded. And the governor vetoed it, but from what I've read, they're coming back July 21st to address everything that's been vetoed. So I know in my school district, we could lose $8 million if House Bill 335 goes through. I'm sure Kent would be around that as well. House Bill 172 is about mental health. And it is to prohibit the provision of mental health services to minors without parental consent, specifically mentioning gender-related conditions all throughout the bill. House Bill 304 is a physical education waiver. If you haven't had students in high school in the last maybe 5 to 7 years, you might not know that students can get a PE waiver for high school PE credit because kids have so many classes that they want to take, especially those kids that they call like the high flyers. They take a lot of AP classes. So they can get a waiver for their PE credit by doing a varsity sport. And currently the requirement is you have to do 2 years of that varsity sport and you get your PE credit. Well, this one now has been introduced to allow participation in club sports outside of school to count, and includes new definitions for these terms. And it also mandates morning and afternoon recess of 30 minutes for grades K through 8. It's not a bad thing. Kids need to move, but the people making these decisions aren't the people in the school. And they keep putting more pressure, on passing state tests, but now they want us to give the kids an hour of recess a day. House Bill 294, intra-district open enrollment. So this is if you have more than one high school, more than one middle school, more than one elementary school that all serves the same grades, they want parents to be able to choose which one of those schools their child goes to. So not necessarily the one that you're zoned to, but it's putting a lot more pressure on the school district because they want the school district to keep track of how many open spots there are in every grade level, and every 12 weeks posted on their website. And in a lot of school districts, kids are very transient. They're coming and going constantly. And so a member of the committee, I watched the testimony on this bill, a member of the committee asked if the bill could be amended to add that charter and private schools should report their data regarding the number of students they have, how many accepted, how many applied, all that kind of stuff. And the sponsor of the bill said, this is a quote, there are any number of different motivations for private schools to open. Probably foremost among them is the desire not to do all the reporting that's required of the public schools. I would hate to transgress on that right of the private school, not to report, by saying we're not going to take public monies, we want some freedoms as well. And I see that as one of those freedoms. And as you're going to see in a couple minutes in my presentation, they do take public money, a lot of it. House Bill 322 is the Ohio Fitness Test Act. The department shall establish an Ohio fitness test that's aligned with the most recent iteration of the presidential physical fitness test. This presidential fitness test has been around forever. To assess the overall fitness of students in grades 1 through 12. The department shall provide an award for students that meet or exceed the 50th and 85th percentiles in the state on all test events, and provide a participation award to students who fall below the 50th percentile in one or more events. And it must be administered annually to each student in grades 1 through 12. But a couple bills ago, they want to do the PE waiver, so kids don't have to take PE in school. So how are we supposed to test them if they're not taking PE in school? Doesn't make sense. All right, House Bill 262. or is it Senate Bill 262, to designate the weeks between Mother's Day and Father's Day as, quote, Natural Family Month. Natural family is defined as one that designates a clear male leader.
What? It must be work.
I'm just passing along information, folks. Senate Bill 34. Senate Bill 34 is on historical documents. So this one has been around since early in 2025, and it's a bill that would require public schools to select at least 4 of a list of historical documents that have to be displayed in every 4 through 12 social studies classroom in the state. Also not providing any funding to do that. Originally, it was 1 of these things on the list. Now it's 4. And here's the list of the documents that you can choose from. Mayflower Compact, Northwest Ordinance, Declaration of Independence, the mottos of the United States and Ohio, the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, and the 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments.
It's had 5 hearings already in the Senate Education Committee. Senate Bill 158 deals with cell phones. You've probably heard about this, and it's been in the news a lot because the governor and a lot of legislators want to ban cell phones completely in the school day. And I think you'll find people on both sides of this one. Parents want the kids to have cell phones because they're afraid something's going to happen. But we all went to school without cell phones. So teachers don't want them in the classroom because they're very distracting to kids. They literally can't live without their phone for a class period. So that one has already passed the Senate, and it's in the House now. Senate Bill 113 and its companion, House Bill 155, is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that would require local school boards to adopt and enforce a policy prohibiting all DEI programs. And it applies only to public schools. So private schools can do whatever they want, apparently. House Bill 97, Senate Bill 109, is a bipartisan bill that would provide breakfast and lunch at no cost to all public school students and chartered non-public schools, regardless of whether they can pay or not. So that's actually one, but it's kind of been stalled. That's a good one, but it's been stalled. A lot of people don't realize that even in the suburbs, we have a lot of kids coming to school hungry, and you can't learn if you're hungry. House Bill 42 would require school districts to collect and report immigration and citizenship data. Senate Bill 107 and House Bill 153 has actually been included in the budget, and it went through. They reduced the State Board of Education from 19 current people, 11 elected and 8 appointed, to now just 5 appointed by the governor. The Constitution of Ohio says that there's to be an elected State Board of Education, but they just decided that it's going to be 5. And they also want local school board races to be partisan. The governor did veto that as well, but we'll see if that gets overturned. House Bill 145 is to increase the school year to a minimum of 1,054 instructional hours. It's currently 1,001. Now, probably about 10 years ago or so, they changed from number of days to hours because there was, places like Lake County, Ashtabula County that get a lot of snow, and they exceeded the number, then they would have to get permission from the state if they had too many snow days. So this is different. They just changed it to hours. And most school districts exceed the number of hours, but there's a certain congressman from Sylvania, his name is Josh Williams, who doesn't think that kids are in school enough, and more importantly, that teachers aren't in school enough. Again, not unfunded. People aren't going to work for free. So they're trying to raise that, but no money. Senate Bill 68 is educational savings accounts. Was also added to the budget, and the governor vetoed it. This is basically an unregulated bonus voucher program that can go to anybody for any reason. And in other states, maybe you've heard places like Arizona, People have in Utah, people have been using these kinds of accounts to buy things like pianos and cellos and computers and things like that. It was added to the budget, but the governor vetoed it. House Bill 190 is the Given Name Act, and this would ban school staff from using names or pronouns that differ from a student's birth certificate without parent permission. Now, if it's a derivative of a name, like a Michael can be called Mike, or Elizabeth can be called Liz, that's okay. But if it's a completely different name, it's not allowed unless the parent allows it. And also, it would deny state funding to the school if they choose to allow staff to call kids by other names, and would also ban staff in the district from using names or pronouns that differ from their own birth certificates. Senate Bill 156, House Bill 269. Well, this is a good one. This is a success sequence, and I mean that totally sarcastically. Starting in January of 2026, the department shall develop a model success sequence and character education curriculum for developmentally appropriate instruction for grades 7 through 12. The model curriculum shall consist of the value of finishing high school, working full-time, getting married, and then having children in that order, in order to be a successful person. And then also includes instruction in character traits and values deeply rooted in the history and tradition of the United States. Things such as trustworthiness, responsibility, care for family, kindness, respect, respect for the property of other people, respect for legitimate authority in law, respect for patriotism, respect for religious faith, morality, wisdom, respect for lifelong marriage, sexual fidelity within marriage, and sexual abstinence outside of marriage. To be taught in the public schools. House Bill, that's had three hearings in the Senate and one hearing in the House already. House Bill 187 would require school districts to provide a moment of silence every day. Doesn't say for what, just you have to do it. Every day. Every level. House Bill 191 would require school districts and ESC teachers to be paid at least $50,000 a year. You might be shocked to learn that they're not. Again, unfunded. Senate Bill 127 allows the state to close certain public school districts, deeming them underperforming according to state tests, state report cards. House Bill 114 is the kindergarten start date. This already passed the full House and is in the Senate and has had 2 hearings, and it would change the first day, or the date that you have to be 5 years old, to quote, the first day of instruction of the school year of admittance. And the bill would apply to traditional public charter and STEM schools. So most school districts, it's like August 1st, September 15th, September 30th, something like that. Now, each school district would be different based on whatever their first day of school is. And that changes every year. It's not the exact same day every year. Senate Bill 1, you've probably heard about this. Senate Bill 1 was passed into law a few months ago, and it's the one that bans all diversity, equity, and inclusion departments, gender studies, all sorts of anything related to that at the university level, public university level. And so people tried to get that on the ballot for November, but we were short. There was, I think, 8 counties. They had to have a certain number of signatures from all 88 counties, and there wasn't enough. Senate Bill 153 and House Bill 153 is the Ohio SAVE Act, which is one that is also a federal one, and it's about voting. And it could prevent possibly tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of eligible Ohioans from voting. It imposes significant barriers to registering to vote, including providing proof of citizenship. It would eliminate the use of voter registration forms, QR code registration at events, and online registration. It requires that registration updates to be done in person at the Board of Elections, like if you need to change your name or your address or anything like that. Requires registered voters to vote provisionally if there's any mismatch with their name or address than on their driver's license. Like, so for instance, my mother-in-law's name is Edith Catherine, but she's always gone by Kathy her whole life. Some of her credit cards say Kathy, some of them say Edith. So if she writes the wrong thing when she goes to vote, she has to vote provisionally. And then it could be denied. Also, it would ban all ballot drop boxes. No ballot drop boxes. And then House Bill 355 would raise the threshold for passing local property tax levies from a simple majority to a 60% supermajority. Now, if any of you know about school district levies and bond issues, which are already impossible to pass, 60%, that's never going to happen. I mean, really, it's not. Okay, so Sherry told me to talk about a few different school districts in Portage County. So we have people here from Kent, obviously. How about Ravenna? Okay, Crestwood, Wyndham, and what was the other one?
Streetsboro?
Southeast. Anybody? Okay, so we can just skip those. Okay, so we'll do Kent and Ravenna. So Kent has 3,000 students. 48% of them are considered economically disadvantaged. 22% are students with disabilities, and the state gives students in Kent City schools $4,400 per student per year. In Ravenna, there is 1,900 students.
Wow.
And according to the Department of Education, it says that 100% of the students in Ravenna are economically disadvantaged. I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute, because I was shocked when I heard that as well. 24% of their students are students with disabilities, and they get about $4,500 per student. So I did some digging and asked a few people after I saw that 100%. And it's due to something called CEP, Community Eligibility Provision. And CEP is calculated so that if a certain percentage of a school's enrollment is eligible for programs like SNAP and Medicaid, then the whole school is considered economically disadvantaged and everyone is eligible for free and reduced meals. I don't know what that percentage is because I'm sure it changes every year. So that's the case for Ravenna. School funding. There's two big issues with school funding. We're going to talk about them both. One is the way they're funded, and two is the voucher system that we have in this state. So public school funding was found unconstitutional in Ohio over 30 years ago, and it hasn't changed. We still continue to fund schools the way we do, which is an over-reliance on property taxes. And taxpayers are the ones that are paying the majority, depending on what community you live in. So in an effort to fix this, in 2021, so 4 years ago, a bipartisan group of legislators, superintendents, treasurers, they got together, did a lot of research, and created something called the Bipartisan Fair School Funding Plan. You may have heard about this, it's been in the news a lot lately. It was supposed to be phased in over 6 years, so 3 phases, because each biennium is 2 years. So the first 2 were already done. This year was supposed to be the last phase in. It's not going to happen. But the Fair School Funding Plan is cost-based, data-based, predictable, and consistent. It's not perfect, but it's better than the over-reliance on property taxes. So the other big issue in our schools in education today is vouchers, which you will also hear called scholarships. Now, I said at the beginning that 90% of Ohio kids attend public schools. So we're talking about like 10% of our kids in the state that use vouchers to go to private schools. Ohio has 5 voucher programs. And these started, I believe, in the late 90s. Some of them are just for special education. like the autism and John Peterson, those are called scholarships. But the Ed Choice and the Cleveland and the Ed Choice expansion are the biggest ones. Now, it started in Cleveland as a way to give students in poverty a better education. That was the original thought. It has grown a lot since then. That's why it's become a problem. So then it grew out of Cleveland and just became the Ed Choice program, where it was welcome to other districts as well. And then the Ed Choice expansion program came, which is where we are now. So in the 2022-23 school year, the state spent $353 million on the Ed Choice expansions, vouchers, for 10% of the kids, $353 million. And last school year, or not last, 23-24, close to $1 billion. So in 2022, that's when they expanded the Ed Choice vouchers by removing the requirement that a student had to have attended a public school. So it used to be, you go to this public school district and the state report cards come out and they're deemed underperforming, so now you can leave that district and go take a voucher and go to a private school. In 2022, they did away with that. You never even had to set foot in the school. So you could just say, I just want to go to a Catholic school, and that's fine. 2023, the vouchers were expanded to 450% over the federal poverty level. So anyone in that range can get voucher money. Okay, you could be a billionaire, and in the state of Ohio, you would still get voucher money. The lowest that anybody would get is $600 per student per year. So if you have 4 kids, that's $2,400 a year to send your kids. If you were a billionaire or not even close to billionaire. And then in 2024, when they changed that, Ohio gave out 70,000 new vouchers, but the number of kids attending private schools grew by less than 3,700. So what does that math tell you? It was going to people who were already there. Exactly. So at this point, in 2024, we started paying for kids that were already in private schools. So their parents have already made that decision, they were already paying for it. But now we're paying for it. So many households that were already sending their kids without assistance, they became eligible, they applied for and received vouchers. In many cases, schools were sending home letters telling them they had to fill out the application and they had to take the voucher. In a lot of other cases, tuition was raised in many of the schools above the voucher limit. So all of this shifted the focus of the voucher program from students in low-performing public schools to subsidize families who were already attending private schools. More new vouchers for high school kids coming from families that make more than $150,000 a year than families making less than $120,000. So this is on the ODE website, and it tracks since 2014 until 2023. That was the trend in the vouchers, and then all of a sudden it goes all the way up in 2024. So here it actually gives you numbers. In 2023, there were 23,272 kids receiving vouchers. And then in 2024, that jumped to 88,000. About 2.3 million of our tax dollars went to subsidize private school tuition of families who make more than $250,000 a year. Shocking. Okay, so how much do kids get for vouchers? Last school year, a K-8 voucher was $6,100, and a high school one was $8,400 per year, per kid. So in Kent, students get from the state $4,300, but the vouchers are more than that. So we're giving more money to the kids to go to private schools than we are to our kids in public schools. Same thing in Ravenna, $4,500. And that's what the vouchers are $2,000 and $4,000 more than what the kids in the public school are. And again, 90% of our kids attend public schools. I saw this morning and I just had to add it. So it says school choice. It means we choose ones to admit. It's not really the parents' choice. It's the school's choice. And a lot of people are shocked when I say this, but private schools can reject anybody they want for any reason. And they don't have to give you a reason. It could be because of your religion, your color, your sexuality, whatever. Your lack of athletic ability, whatever they want it to be. And where do those kids end up? Back at the public school. If you have behavior issues, they'll kick you out and they end up back at the public school. If you need special education services, they'll kick you out and you'll end up back at the public school. They are also unaccountable. They operate without public oversight. They don't have boards of education. They don't have to meet the state standards for anything that public schools do, academically and financially. They don't have to take state tests. Some of them do, but they don't have to have those results publicized like public schools do. They don't have to submit financial forecasts, budgets, all these things that are required of public schools. In fact, a lot of private schools have the public school as their fiscal agent, and they have to run things through the public schools. That's more work on the public school treasurers. And also they can price you out. So they can raise their tuition, and many have, above whatever the voucher is, because the voucher only goes towards tuition. So many have added other fees, like for application fees, entrance exams, registration fees, that you can't use a voucher for. So if you can't afford that, well, you can't come to my school. There are some schools that don't take vouchers, like University School, Hawken. You've ever heard of those in Cuyahoga County? And of course, you can use the money for a religious school, not just private school, parochial, it's fine. So, in Kent schools, this is data from the Ohio Department of Education. You have, I know it's hard to see, so I'll read it to you. You have 135 students that are taking vouchers currently. And 83% of those are considered not low income. 83%. And out of those 135, 106 are white, non-Hispanic, which is 78% of the kids taking vouchers in Kent. In Ravenna, they have only 36 kids, but it's a smaller district, taking vouchers. And 61% of those are considered not low income. Now, I think part of the reason is because Portage County only has 3 private schools in the whole county. They are, St. Patrick, St. Joseph, and Valley Christian Academy, or at least only 3 that take vouchers. So $1,761,000 is going to vouchers for 3 schools. But comparing that to Cuyahoga County, $54 million to 95 schools. And this isn't the whole list. This is just, I sorted them from highest to lowest. And number 1 is St. Ignatius High School. They get $3.285 million a year. Padua gets 2.5, St. Ed's gets 2.3, Holy Name 1.7, Magnificat 1.7. Now, this is just where the schools are located. So there could be kids from Portage County that go to those schools. So they just do it by the county that the school is located in. So there's a group of over 300 school districts in the state. There's 611 school districts in the state. So about half of those have joined in together in a lawsuit against the state because of these vouchers. It's called Vouchers for Ohio. And I checked, Kent and Ravenna are not. They have not joined the lawsuit. It's $2 per student. And I know that for a lot of districts, that's a lot of money. In Berea, we have 5,000 students. So we talked about it a couple years ago, and that would have been $10,000 for us, and at the time, we said, no, we believe in it, but we can't spend the money. But earlier this year, when we started seeing all these numbers started coming out, well, no, we have to do it, so we joined. And you have to repay every year that the lawsuit is in effect. So the basis of the lawsuit is that it's against the Ohio Constitution to have these vouchers. This is word for word from the Constitution. The General Assembly shall make such provisions by taxation or otherwise as with the income arising from the school trust fund will secure a thorough and efficient system of common schools throughout the state. One system of schools. But no religious or other sect or sects shall ever have any exclusive right to or control of any part of the school funds of this state. So that's the main basis. And just last week or the week before, a judge in Franklin County sided with the lawsuit, with us. But it's already been appealed. I'm sure it'll go to the Ohio Supreme Court. It'll probably go to the U.S. Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. All right, so if vouchers weren't bad enough, then there's the state budget. I've never paid attention to the state budget, quite honestly. I still don't even understand a lot of it. But this year, it's different. So the governor put together his version and released that February 3rd. Gave it to the House. Then the House released their version April 9th. Then it went to the Senate, and they released their version June 11th. Okay, so that's 3 different versions. And they had a lot in common, but there were some things that were very different, education being one of them. So then on June 27th, there was a conference committee formed, which was the president of the Senate, the House, the Speaker of the House, and then I think three House people and 3 senators. And they were together for however many days, and then they put together a proposal that they could live with. And 3 days later, it went to the governor, June 30th, because it has to be signed by June 30th. So he could either choose not to sign it, or he could choose to veto line items. And he did. He vetoed 67 line items. That's the most he's ever done. I think last year was 40-something. And several of them had to do with education. But in this budget, vouchers will receive an additional $2.4 billion. Billion. In addition to the $600 million that's going to the Browns Stadium. And I live in Cleveland, I like the Browns. And actually the stadium, the Brook Park, that's going in, that's part of my school district. Berea is 3 cities. It's Berea, Brook Park, and Middlebrook Heights. We're not going to get any money from it because, it'll be tax abated and all that. But $600 million. So billions of dollars for the 10% of Ohio students who use vouchers. And the increase to public education is $281 million for 90% of the kids. So you might have heard your representative or your senator saying, this is the best budget for education and all the time that I've been alive, blah, blah, blah. The increase that they're talking about is like $27 per kid. Some crazy thing like that. It's not the billions of dollars that we need. I'm almost done and then I'll take questions, I promise. All right, so the Senate version of the numbers is what is closest to what is actually going to happen. But of course, we won't really know until the vetoes are overridden or whatever is going to happen on the 21st. So Kent schools, if that fair school funding plan that I mentioned a little while ago would have gone through, they would have received an additional $9 million. The governor's version had minus $996,000. The House version had an increase of $138,000, and the Senate version is minus $193,000. So see how different those all are. Ravenna would have gotten $4.8 million through the Fair School Funding Plan. The governor's budget had it down $1.7 million. The House had it an additional $87,000, and the Senate version has negative 966,000. We'll find out soon what it will do. Federal funds. This has been in the news a lot lately for the last several months. You know, getting rid of the Department of Education nationally, and people don't really know what the Department of Education does. They provide a lot of money to school districts for things that are like Title I funds and also special education funds, and it's called IDEA grants. And so what they want to do is basically give the money, instead of giving it directly to the schools, they want to give it to the states and then let the states do with it as they will. But in Ohio, we don't have a good track record with the state and public schools. So, Kent City Schools, in 2022, 13% of the district's budget was made up of federal funds. 13%. And that was $760,000 for Title I. That supports kids from low-income families. $910,000 for special ed. And $1.7 million for school meals. So all that could go away. For Ravenna in 2022, very similar. Their budget was made up of 14% of federal funds. $866,000 Title I, $671,000 special education, and $1.5 million for school meals. So, what can you do to help? It's really easy to feel hopeless, but we can't. We have to fight back. And right now, you need to stay informed. And it's not just reading the newspaper. It's reading a lot of different forms of information. And one of them is us, Honesty for Ohio Education, because we're just giving you facts. And if you sign up for our newsletter, which I have another QR code here, it comes out weekly, and it has live links included in it, and it'll take you to where you can contact your legislators directly and even give you sample verbiage of what you can say. It's very important. You've got to reach out to your legislators. They need to hear it. That doesn't mean they're going to listen, quite honestly, because like Senate Bill 1 had 1,000 people testify against, and they still passed it. But they do have to keep track of all the emails received, all the phone calls received. So contact them. Attend school board meetings. I mean, your local school board they have to deal with all this. They have to, deal with the repercussions. But they don't get a lot of say in it. But if you go to a school board meeting and you speak at public participation, it becomes part of the record. And if your school district records meetings or live streams the meetings, then other people will hear about what's going on. And it will show your school board that you're paying attention and that you care. And you can ask them, how are you handling these things? Submit testimony whenever those hearings come up for all these different bills that haven't passed yet. You can go to Columbus and submit in person, or you can submit written testimony. There's a form online, very easy to do, and it becomes part of the record. It will go up on the website, and you can see everybody's testimony. You can write a letter to the editor. Do you have a local paper still?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. There's always Cleveland.com, but local papers are better because people usually read those more.
Great job.
Awesome. Write a letter to the editor.
Your letters appropriately. Please send them to me.
There you go. See, this group has got it going on. So I know I presented a lot of information. Unfortunately, most of it not good. But there are people that care and are fighting, and we need everybody here to do that as well. Especially people who don't have kids in school anymore, because you're the ones that are going to end up having to pay for all of this. Your property taxes are going to go up. All of our property taxes are going to go up because the money has to come from somewhere. And, right now they're fighting over getting rid of property taxes. So then how are we going to fund schools at all? It just doesn't make sense. It's a vicious circle. So the people making the decisions really, really need to hear from you. And if you have any questions, I can try to answer them. I'm by no means an expert, but I do kind of live this every day. Sir in the back, you raised your hand a bunch of times.
And I'd like to give you a thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Members of the legislature say that they increased funding, and you showed us about like 200.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
But I think they said it was, if they didn't do fair school funding, it would have been about, what, $750 million?
He's asking about, legislators are saying that they've increased school funding.
Yeah.
But if they would have actually followed the Fair School Funding Plan, it would have been more, which they had committed to doing,
Yeah.
but they just decided to scrap it.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was Speaker Huffman actually said that it was unsustainable. And then the next day released $600 million to the Browns. But yes, so if they would have continued with the Fair School Funding Plan, things would have been better than they were before this budget.
So the question I have was about there was a bill that another member told me about that also was a tax on levies. I think it was part of Governor DeWine's veto that said that if a district passes a levy and if they don't spend a certain part of it, they have to give part of it back.
Yes.
And that would result in having to pass more levies.
Yes, there was a cap on school district budgets. The House, I think, had said 30%, and then the Senate said 50%, and then the conference committee said 40%, and then the governor vetoed it. So basically, it meant if a school district had in its reserves that amount, let's say 40% of their budget, or more, it had to go back to the taxpayers as tax relief, which then in turn would trigger another levy because there wouldn't be enough money. They're just under this false impression that school districts are hoarding money for whatever reason. And some school districts do save up. Maybe they need a new roof, which costs millions of dollars, or new boilers, or new playgrounds, or a new school, so that they don't have the taxpayers. Yeah, we'll see if it gets overridden or not. But right now, that's totally out, which is a good thing. Yes, ma'am.
Well, first I want to say you couldn't make this stuff up. Beyond belief. But my question is, do you know whether Ohio is following model legislation from other states? Or if this is their own?
So the question was, do I know if Ohio is following model legislation from other states, or if this is their own thinking? I don't know that. I think there may be a playbook somewhere that a lot of states are following the same things because you keep seeing the things coming up, but I don't know that for sure. Yes, sir.
My fellow Portage County, I want you to know something. This attack on education started 50 and 60 years ago. This conversation, it's been quiet. But up till now, when this president and this president and his group, cutting education, has sent a message back to the states, y'all need to do the same thing. And that's what this is all about. But I want to tell you something here today. Education in the state of Ohio has worked. I'm a product of it. I live in a community. I live in a community where I came from, got a great education. I've been part of the community, and I want to tell you a story how good it is. We have 3 black females on the Board of Education in Ravenna who have college degrees, and they can work other jobs. We have a first black football coach. We got a black basketball coach. Our band director is black. Our middle school principal is black. We have other people So when I was a child, they told me, Frank Harrison, you be a good person, you get an education, you do the right thing, things are going to have to be good for you. They have been good for us. So now what they want to do is take it away from us. We finally get to where we need to go and can help our kids and all our kids, not just all our kids. Bill Winooski and I do that, and Bill and the Grivelins and all these people in Ravenna. But guess what? They want to take us back. So I want you to remember something that Frank Harrison said. my sisters and my brothers and sisters of color, they don't want you at the table. This is what this is all about. You need to go back and find your vice president just made a speech 2 days ago to a group of folks, and he talked about this, how white males should be controlling everything. They want us to go back. I'm not going back. Thanks.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. For those of you who are active and retired teachers here in Ohio, the legislature is also messing with our pension system.
I forgot to mention that.
Yes.
In the middle of the night at 1:30 in the morning with this budget, an amendment was submitted that would take away 4 of the 7 teacher representatives that we elected to represent us because of all the crap that they're trying to pull with our pension system. And remember, grassroots, we got them all elected, and now they're taking 4 of the 7 away, and they're replacing them with appointees. So
Only the
not
teachers-
only,
only the
not only
teachers
is this
retired
bad, but it's a
assistants, no other
slap in the
retired
face to teachers.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Will local school boards actually listen to people from the community who don't have children in the school?
Well, that's a great question. She asked, will local school boards listen to people who don't have children in the communities? As a school board member, I do, because most, like my community, 80% of the people in my community do not have kids in the schools.
You are a taxpayer.
So they're the ones that are really gonna pass the levies. I mean, quite frankly, the parents don't usually vote.
And you're
Which is a
usually the
different
one-
problem.
And you're usually the ones that, elderly people are the ones that go vote.
Yes, exactly.
They're the
So
ones that go vote.
I think if your school district is not, then you need to make them. And you need to hold them accountable because you voted for them to represent you. That's what their job is, to represent the taxpayers, no matter what age group you happen to fall in. Last question? We got 2 more.
And this may already be happening, but if a child in a school district opts for a voucher to go to another school, does the district have to pay for transportation?
Yes, that's a state law. The district has the question is, if a student using a voucher goes to a private school, does the school district have to transport them? And the answer is yes, within 30 minutes. Within 30 minutes drive. And parents will fight us on that.
Ravenna has
And-
250 kids go to Neil, man.
Yeah.
We have to transport.
Yes. And then if there's special education, that's different, you know, I mean, there's all sorts of wacky things, but yes, and it's at the school district's expense.
Okay, one last one.
Okay.
Bob.
This is more a comment than a question, but in the late 90s, George Voinovich and Mikey DeWine came to the Beacon Journal editorial board, as they did newspapers across Ohio, asking for support of the initial vouchers to Cleveland. And they said then, and promised, that it was merely to bail out the Archdiocese of Cleveland. And it was not a slippery slope, and we will go no further. Virtually every newspaper in the state said, oh, we know that's wrong, we know this is a slippery slope, and this is not a good move. Back when newspapers used to have editorial pages. And the thing I always found ironic about it was that the idea of property taxes, a community supporting its public schools, was the Akron plan in the 19th century, before the Civil War. Akron came up with the idea of property taxes and universal compulsory education, which a European philosopher in the early 20th century said was America's greatest gift to the world. And since Ronald Reagan, America's been trying to destroy it. That's my comment.
I think it's important to note that no one is against private schools or students choosing to go to private schools. It's the fact that it's public money that's being used, and they don't have to follow the same standards. You can choose to send I went to private schools. My parents, like I said, were immigrants. They thought that private was better. They worked multiple jobs to be able to pay for me to go to private school. That was their choice. nobody else should have to pay for that other than the people that choose to do it.
Is there any way we could get the slide?
Yeah, I just sent it to Sherry.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Steve.
And thank you.
As I